So working on this music that I didn't care for at all is actually a huge part of a reason why I ended up where I am in my career. This year marks my 20th year in music. And for the last 5 or 6 years or so, I've been working on between 150 and 200 songs per year. Now, working on that much music throughout my career, there's no way that I actually love every single song that I work on. It's impossible. So today I want to talk about how to work on stuff you're actually not super into, how you can do that and best serve the artist, create the best music possible, even if it's not your favorite thing ever, and how you can pull the maximum amount of learning out of those situations. So my hometown of Peoria, Illinois, happens to be where Mudvayne is also from. And in the year 2000, Mudvayne released the album LD50. But because Mudvayne exploded out of this town of like 110,000 people, what happened is just about all of the bands and all of the live music then became Mudvayne wannabes. The early years of me working in a studio and working on music, it was dominated. That time was dominated by Mudvayne wannabe metal bands. And let's just be real. Some of them weren't very good. But in the earlier years in my career, and honestly, up until just a couple years ago, I just would take whatever came through the door. Because I needed to keep the lights on, I needed to keep food on my table, and for a whole bunch of years in my career, that was a real struggle. But working on all of that less than mediocre metal music taught me a whole bunch of things that I think were instrumental in my career path and helping me get to where I am now. So let's go over some of these things. There are links in the description below to every piece of gear I use and a whole bunch of gear that I recommend often. Those links go to Sweetwater. Sweetwater's sponsoring this video. And if you use any of those links, not just to purchase any of that gear, but to purchase any piece of gear you ever need, helps the channel out a lot. So anytime you need any piece of musical gear, jump on any one of my videos, click on any one of the links in the description, buy anything that you need, and I really, really appreciate it. Okay, the first thing that I had to learn really quickly is that I'm not capable of working on music that I don't like. So my solution to this problem, since I had to take the work that was coming through the door, is to always find something about the song that I loved. No matter how much I disliked the song or the parts that were being played, or you fill in the blank, no matter how much I disliked something, I had to find a thing about the song to latch onto, and that would be the thing that would get me through the whole project. Now, this does a couple things. One, this helps me fall in love with the song. This helps me make the song palatable. This also helps me lean into what I believe are the best parts about the song, which helps me make the song better. And it also helps my relationship with the client because I'm not constantly working from a negative headspace on their music. I'm focusing on the positive, even if the majority of the song is over here on the negative. Now, what are these positive things or these things that I would fall in love with? It could be anything. It could be just the way the snare drum sounds. It could be just that the bass guitar in this one spot was cool. It could be one single little piece of the vocal melody in the chorus. It literally could be anything, no matter how small or how large. But I would find a thing for every song and latch onto it. And that is still how I work. I'm very fortunate to work mostly on things that I really want to work on. But I still find the things that make me grab onto a song, and that's what I hold on to while I'm working on it. Now, the other thing that working on extremely mediocre music did for me was get really good at polishing turds. Now, I'm sure the opinions on this are wildly all over the place, but because of so many years working with new artists, entry bands that weren't super proficient at their instruments or at singing, it made me really proficient at polishing those things up and taking a band or an artist or a song that was pretty meh and making it as good as it could possibly be. Now, this skill set did a couple things for me. The first and probably most important thing that it did for me is it made those bands that I worked on, the songs that I worked on, it made those artists tell everybody how incredible of a job that I did because I was able to take their raw stuff and turn it into something significantly better than it was on its own when we started. And so that word of mouth where everyone began to know that the work that I do is top shelf and I'm going to give you a product that's significantly better than what someone else in the area is going to give you. This was a big deal in terms of me getting new clients and building a reputation. But the second thing that this kind of polishing the turds did for me is you don't realize how much of this stuff just happens. It doesn't matter how good the artist is. There's always something to polish about it. Now, granted, the polishing is much more subtle now than it was back in those days. And even though the polishing is much more subtle nowadays, it allows me to get so much more nuanced with the polishing. It allows me to focus on cultivating the emotion with the polishing rather than just fixing a bunch of problems, because it kind of sucked to begin with. Then it just hit me that I've never really talked about this in a video before, even though I tell people this face to face all the time, that working on music I wasn't super fond of and working on music that kind of wasn't that great is a huge part of my skill set today and being able to do what I do today, and also the reputation that I currently have as a producer and as a mixer and as an engineer. Don't forget to hit the links in the description for anything you might need, but I hope that this helped you be able to wrap your head around how to work on stuff that maybe isn't your favorite piece of music ever. It's something that if you want a career in this, you're gonna have to work your way through it. When you find yourself in those situations, just focus on that. Focus on the skill sets that it takes to make it the best that you possibly can, and find that thing, that little element, no matter how big or small it might be in the song, and latch onto that and let that be what carries you through the entire process. So that way you can give your best self, the most you have to offer. That way you can give that to this song, even if it's something you don't particularly love. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next one. Peace.